Hey there, class. This is Mr. Briggs. Today we are going to learn all about how to make a video game in Scratch. Now, Scratch is a really cool programming system used to teach kids how to program by making video games, animations, music, all kinds of great stuff. So here's what we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up this thing right here. Now, this gives us some instructions for how to make a really cool game, really simple, right and left, grab a banana game. We're going to want to come back to this again and again to get our instructions. First thing I'm going to do is click this link that Mr. Briggs has provided you, and that takes you to his classroom page. So we're going to hit Get Started, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down a username, and the username, it'd be really great to use your first name, last initial, and then Toki. And hopefully that's a username that hasn't been used by anybody yet. And then a password, we're going to want to use your regular password that you use for school. Okay? And hopefully this wasn't taken. Now before I go anywhere, I'm going to write down what my username was. In my case, it's Lee B. Toki, and my password I'm putting down as cat. Now, it's not really my password, but you get it, okay? Now, why do we write down our username? Why do we write down our password? Because we do not want to lose that username. We do not want to lose our password. We want to have it written down somewhere. Okay, going back to Scratch here, I'm going to put in the facts here of when we were born. Okay, and what years were we born? We want to answer some questions here as best we can. And United States is the very top thing right there. We're going to go to the next step. So there we go. I'm now in. I'm going to go to class. All right, now this is the class and what we're working on. We're not working on anything yet. We're going to make our very first game. I am signed in right here under Lee B. Toki. And I have these buttons up here. Now, Explore will give you games that other people have made. Ideas might give you ideas on how to make a game. We want to hit Create today because we're making a game from scratch, in Scratch. So I'm hitting Create. And it's going to make this project. Now let's talk about our project. Right here, in this section right here, is the actual game window. And this first thing that shows up, any object in a game that you can see and move around and manipulate is called a sprite. Now they've named it Sprite 1. I'm going to change that guy's name to Cat, okay, because that's what he is. So I have Cat. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to get the cat to do some stuff. And right here is the programming space, this middle part. And you'll notice there's a little like ghosty cat. These are the programs, the scripts I have given the cat to do. What do I want him to do? Well, I don't know yet. But right here on the left are all the different things I can do. I have things for motion, I have looks, I have sounds, I have events, I've got control, sensing, operators, variables, and blocks. And the blocks are things that you can make yourself. What we want to do is take a look at control first. I'm sorry, not control, events. Now, the way Scratch works is when we hit the flag, it means go. When we hit the stop sign, it means stop. We want when the game starts to do something. So I'm going to drag in a thing when the flag is clicked to start. And if you want to know what the code is, you can always check by going back here, okay, to our assignment. So when the flag is clicked, what do I want him to do? Well, the first thing I want him to do is I want to move him right or left, okay? So I'm going to go to Control, and I want him to forever do this. Well, what do I want him to forever do? I want him forever if I press the right arrow. So I've got to figure out when I'm pressing the right arrow. For that, I'm going to go to Sensing. Now, sensing is, are you pressing a key? Are you hitting another color? Are you, what are you detecting? And in this case, I want him to detect if I pressed a certain key. Okay, and the key I want him to do is the right arrow. If I'm pressing the right arrow, I want him going right. So now I got to think about Okay, movement. Movement is probably going to be in motion. There's motion. Well, I want him to move. So the first thing I want to do is point him in a direction. And if I click on this 90 degrees, they use compass headings, okay? 0 is straight ahead, 90 is right, 180 is down, negative 90 is going to be left. I want it to be positive 90. If I press the right arrow, I want him going right. And then I want him to move 10 steps. I'm going to test that now. I'm going to hit go and hit the right arrow. Look, I made him go right. But if I hit the left arrow, nothing happens. That's because I haven't programmed left yet, okay? So I need to program left. To program the left, I'm going to go back to Control, and I'm going to drag another if block, but it needs to be in the forever block. I need to always forever be thinking about this. And I'm going to switch it. I'm going to go to Sensing again, but this time if it is the left arrow doing it, and I want him to point in a direction. So I'm going to go point direction, but in this case, instead of 90, I'm going to drag this around and make it negative 90. And I want him to move 10 steps. Now let's try that out. I'm going to hit the flag again to start my game. There he goes right. Oh, there he goes left. But there's a problem. He is going right and left. And when he goes left, he goes upside down. So I need to do something. I need to change his rotation style. Now that's hidden somewhere. I got to go scroll down here into motion. And if I scroll down into motion, there's a thing here called set rotation style. And I want to set his rotation style to left and right. I could also do it where he doesn't rotate, or he can go all around. I want left to right. So let's see if that works now. Oh, he goes left, he goes right. Awesome. Now this is making him go left, this is making him go right. I want him to grab stuff that falls from the sky. So to do that, I need to add a new sprite. Now this right here is the new sprite button. I can paint a sprite if I want. I can have it pick a sprite at random. I can even upload a sprite. I can find a picture that I really like. I'm going to choose a sprite. There's all these cool things you could pick to be for your sprite. I am going to pick a banana. So there's the bananas. The first thing I'm going to do is move the bananas way to the top. Okay, because that's where I want them to be when the game starts. And I've got to figure out what do I want them to do. Well, I want them to go right and left and right and left randomly, moving around, and then drop every so often. So to do that, I'm going to start with an event when the flag is clicked, then a control, forever. But this forever is going to be different. I'm going to go to motion. This sprite is controlling himself, okay? And what I'm going to make him do is I'm going to make him repeat. And that's in the control. I'm going to have him repeat maybe 5 times, the right and left before he drops. So to do the right and left, I'm going to use this button called glide. I'm going to put a glide here, and that is where he currently is. Well, you know what? Forget that. Drag that out. I want the banana to start here. Now you'll notice the numbers changed. And the numbers are X and Y values. X is how far across is he. He is way back on the left side, so he's negative 200. And he is positive 150, meaning he's way up at the top. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my bananas to the right, where I want them going. And I'm going to drag in a glide again. Now you'll notice the 156 changed maybe to 152. That he's about the same height, but you'll notice this is negative 200 and this is positive 200. So if I click that, he's going to have the bananas going right and left and right and left and right and left. Pretty cool, right? But now I want them to randomly move around. To do random stuff, I've got to go to operators. Now operators are like operations, which is the fancy word for math. And I'm going to drag in a pick random, and I'm going to put it in the X value. The X value is how far right and how far left. And I'm going to do that for both of them. Well, the farthest right I can go is like 220. And the farthest left I can go is negative 220. And I'm going to do that for both of them. Positive 220, negative 220. And when I hit go on this now, you'll notice that the bananas don't just go right and left, they're going all over the place. And in fact, the speed is changing because it's taking them 1 second to go across the screen or 1 second to go just a little ways. So the speed is changing. The bananas are randomly kind of floating up there and moving around. That's pretty cool. Well, now I want them to drop. So to drop, I am going to drop the bananas down to the ground. Now when I drop the bananas down to the ground, okay, you'll notice that the Y changes to negative like 130 here, right? That's pretty good. So I need them to drop to negative 130. That's going to be in motion again. I'm going to have him glide. Now it's important that you put the glide after this repeat block, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him glide 1 second to the X position. Now the X position block is down here in the bottom. So there's X position down to negative 132. So wherever he is, right or left, he's just going to drop. But now I want to duplicate that. Or actually, I can also go to motion here and drag another glide in there. But this glide, I'm going to make it whatever his X position is, and I'm going to change it back to 156, which remember is about to the top of the screen. So what should happen here is 5 times the bananas are going to go right and left randomly. And then after 5 times going right and left randomly, they are going to drop down to the level of the cat and then drop back up. Let's try that out. Now this might seem complicated, but if you think about it, the bad guy's programming is usually way more complicated than the guy you're controlling. The bad guys have a lot of work to do automatically. So those bananas going right and left randomly, and every so often, every 5 times, they drop. Okay? Now let's say I don't want them to be random. I don't want it to be 5 times. Let's say I want it to happen a little more often than that. Well, to make it more challenging, I could go back to operators, and anywhere there is a blank spot, you can drop a random in there. I'm going to have it randomly 1 to 5 seconds. So now when I hit go, those bananas might drop after 1 second, they might drop after 3, they might drop after 5. You never know. But they are going to randomly drop at the cat. That's pretty cool. Well, I need to add something new. I need to make it so that the cat scores points when the cat grabs the bananas. Now, you'd think you'd put that in the cat. You don't. You put that in the bananas. So I'm just going to drag this kind of out of the way, and I'm going to think about what I want the bananas to do. Well, I want, when the game starts, the first thing I want to do is make the points. Well, points are what's called a variable. Variable is any number we give a name to. So here in variables, I've got something here called my variable. I'm going to make a new one, and I'm going to call it points. And I want it for all of the sprites. I want all of the sprites to know what the points are. So I'm going to first, when the game starts, set the points to 0. Okay? Then we got to do a forever thing. I want to forever be able to score some points. So forever, if he's touching the cat. Well, touching is a sense, so I'm going to go to sensing. And here is touching mouse pointer. But you'll notice if I click with the mouse pointer, there's a drop down, and I get cat. So I'm going to have forever, if touching the cat, right, I want it to wait a second. That's really important, to wait a second. Otherwise, it's going to score points all the time. I want it to wait a second, and then I want it to change the points by 1. And you know what? Just for fun, I'm going to have it make a sound. Now, if I click on sounds, I can get new sounds in here by hitting the little plus thing, or I can grab a sound. Now, here's a chomp sound. Okay. And here's a bite sound. I'm going to drag the chomp sound in. Okay. So I'm going to go to code again, and click sounds, and I'm going to have it play the sound chomp. So now if I play my game, right, and hit go, I should be able to go right, I should be able to go left, and then every so often, when I grab the banana, nope. It makes a chomp noise, and it scores a point. So that's how you make your game. Last thing I want to do is give that game a name. I'm going to call it Banana Cat. I spelled banana wrong. And I'm going to hit share. Now here is the official Banana Cat game. I can tell people how to play it. Grab the bananas. Okay, and I can now make this something I can share with other people. So with this done, I can grab this link and I could send this link to my teacher, to myself, to my parents, and other people could play my game. So that's how you make a game in Scratch. Now remember, the cool thing about Scratch is that you could change things up. You could change this from a cat to a bat. You could change it any way you want. Have as much fun as you want. And if you've completed this, challenge yourself by hitting this thing called tutorials and find all of these really cool things that you can also do in Scratch. You can do art, animation, games, music, stories, all kinds of amazing stuff. Have fun, guys, and work hard.